Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Alright guys, today on the channel we are building a World War III post-nuclear war survival kit. So let's get to it. Okay, first off, we've built several bug-out bags on the channel before. This one might be slightly less comprehensive. There's going to be some key differences between this nuclear war survival kit. One of the distinguishing features of a nuclear war survival backpack is the means to detect radiation, the means to protect yourself against radiation, and protect yourself from the ingestion of radioactive particles. Next to that is the importance of communication and intelligence gathering tools. There's a good chance if there is a nuclear war, electromagnetic pulse will completely fry the power grid. There's not going to be the internet, the emergency broadcast system. The emergency alert system is likely not going to be operational. This has the potential to fry a lot of the electronics. So if your electronics aren't contained in a Faraday cage or a Faraday bag or some protective enclosure, that's going to be a problem. So you're going to have a way to acquire information via radio, analog, in order to know exactly what is going on in your region. Next, of course, you're going to need your basic run-of-the-mill survival tools that we've likely covered in other bug-out bag videos, but we're going to go over that again today. Of course, you're going to need your food and water, and you'll also need a means of self-defense because, of course, people are going to be very panicked. There's going to be a lot of lawlessness. The police and emergency services are going to be overwhelmed. In addition to that, there's likely going to be the imposition of martial law. If NATO and Russia and China go to war, one of the first things the government is going to do is impose martial law. Another thing you're going to want is a means to identify yourself. Digital records will possibly be completely wiped out and destroyed. So you're going to want to have paper copies of your documents. So let's break down exactly what we have in this nuclear war survival bag. One of the first things that you need for nuclear war survival is knowledge, okay? And this book right here, Nuclear War Survival Skills, is a compendium of knowledge when it comes to how to survive. This is the most comprehensive nuclear war survival guide that's out there on the market, and it's very easy to read. We've done interviews with one of the co-authors of this book before, and you can go watch our videos that we've done with them. I'll post links in the description. You can get this in a digital PDF format, which of course is going to be a lot smaller than this. This is going to be big. It's well worth its weight because, of course, they say knowledge weighs nothing, and that's why it's great if you can read this beforehand and commit it all to memory. But it is a lot of information. So $20 nuclear war survival skills book, that should be at the top of the list. So one of the first things is protecting yourself against radioactive fallout. Well, how do you do that? Obviously, if we're talking about a bug out situation, you're not going to be able to protect yourself against gamma radiation. What you want to do is try to get to shelter as soon as possible. Now, the radioactive fallout after a nuclear bomb is detonated is going to fall back to Earth within 24 hours. So it's going to become a problem, and it's likely going to be a problem for 2 to 4 weeks after an incident. That is the half-life of a lot of those radioactive particles. Now, there are certain radioactive particles that have a much longer half-life, which will be problematic for possibly months, years after the event takes place. But by and large, 90% of what you're concerned about is going to be dissipated and diluted into the environment by around 4 weeks. Ideally, you would have a nuclear bunker. You'd be outside the epicenter of target areas, high-risk areas. That would be cities, military bases, intercontinental ballistic missiles, silos. Obviously, this is not going to be achievable for a lot of people. If you're lucky enough to live in a major city which is perhaps off the beaten path, you have a basement that you can fortify. All of the home fortification stuff that you need to know is in this book, okay? But this backpack is more so for people who are likely going to be in a high-risk area who need to evacuate to a safe place. Now, one thing you'll notice with this gear is that I only have 2 MREs here. That's obviously just for demonstration purposes. The reason why MREs is because they're enclosed in multiple layers of plastic. So this just minimizes the risk that they're going to be contaminated by any sort of radiation which might happen to be in the air. Of course, MREs are built to be highly durable and they're self-contained, so you don't need any sort of water from the outside to hydrate them like you would freeze-dried food. As much as freeze-dried food lasts a lot longer, arguably MREs are far more versatile because you just get a whole lot of other things inside the MRE, whether it's salt or utensils, napkins, things of that nature. Now, in terms of personal protection, you want to protect yourself against alpha, beta particles. Alpha particles are easy to protect against. You can protect yourself against that with just a simple piece of paper. Protecting against beta radiation is a little bit more difficult, but it is achievable. So for that, you're going to need a level B hazmat suit. The primary thing is that you don't want to ingest these particles. But if you can prevent getting them on your skin, prevent that nuclear fallout from accumulating on your clothing, then that is going to be ideal. And of course, with any personal protective equipment, you want to have proper decontamination procedures. So it's very important that if you are donning some type of hazmat suit and you're out in the environment that's radioactive, that when you go into your space afterwards, that you make sure that you decontaminate before you go into that space, or else what you're going to do is you're going to bring all those radioactive particles into your living space and you're going to run the risk of developing radiation sickness. So there's two types of suits that we'll demonstrate in this video. One is a more inexpensive option. Many of you are familiar with those Tyvek suits. Those are just plain throwaway white Tyvek suits. Those will do just fine against alpha particles, just like your clothing, basically. So it's kind of redundant in a nuclear radiological situation. But a level 2 hazmat suit like the Thyrosafe Haz-suit is cost effective. These are about $100. They're thick plastic. They're also good against chemical and biological contaminants. The other kind of suit that we're showing here is what they call a MOPP suit. So a MOPP suit is an acronym for a mission-oriented protective posture suit. This is protective gear used by the US military personnel for toxic environments. Now, some of the benefits of this type of suit over the Haz-suit, the Haz-suit is not breathable. It gets very, very hot and it's not very comfortable. It's sure better than dying and developing acute radiation sickness, but it's not going to be bearable for more than half an hour to an hour, I would say, at a time. Unlike the MOPP suit, it actually provides you three things, okay? It's breathable, so it's more comfortable. It actually will provide you a bit of warmth if it's wintertime. Now, these suits that I show here can be washed up to 10 times to decontaminate before they need to basically be recycled. This one here is flame retardant. It has an integrated hood that adapts to fit respirators, and it's compatible with all mirror safety gas masks and most CBRN respirators and hoods. So you don't just need mirror safety gear, you can use any of the gas masks that you can find at CanadianPreparedness.com. They are a lot more expensive, so they're around 10 times the price of a standard hazmat suit. Now, in terms of ensuring that those particles don't get inside the suit, you're going to probably want something like chem tape, or in the very least, duct tape. You're going to also want to get yourself some butyl gloves. Use that in conjunction with your chem tape. You don't have to worry about any of those particles coming into contact with your skin. You can go to this level, which is kind of overkill, but this is an overboot and it's made of the same materials. As you can see here, we have a gas mask, and because all of this stuff, when you put it into a bag, it's probably going to weigh somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 pounds, which is really not that much. A lot of people obsess about keeping their bug out bag weights low. I would say it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And if you have to, you can always dump stuff. So what you see here is a standard CBRN gas mask. And what I have it connected to here is a PAPR. So if you've never worn a gas mask before, most people don't realize how hard it is to breathe, because your breathing is going to be greatly restricted via the HEPA filter or the activated carbon filter that you see here. When you're just walking, or if you're doing a very low intensity activity, then it's not that bad. However, you have to move quickly and your heart rate's getting up there a bit, it's going to be a lot harder to breathe. So for a lot of people, I would recommend a PAPR, especially if you have to move a lot of gear. Like if I had to carry this 50 pounds worth of gear with a gas mask on, I would probably be gassed in about 300 meters, and I'm in fairly good shape. So a lot of people are simply not going to be able to do that. What this is going to do, this is a powered air purifying respirator. So this is going to do the breathing for you. The actual gas mask filters, so normally we would just put these onto here and you would be able to use the gas mask just fine. Once again, your breathing will be restricted. This thing, I flick the switch and it's going to do the breathing for me. Now this runs on batteries, so you do have a limited life cycle with something like this. The idea is that in a post-nuclear situation, you're going to want to get to shelter and you're not going to be walking around doing a lot of stuff. This is really just a way to get you from point A to point B, getting you to a safe shelter that is fortified enough to protect you against the beta particles and the gamma radiation. Now, in order to do that, you're going to need a trenching tool. So if you find yourself out in the wilderness, you can actually entrench yourself a perfectly usable nuclear war survival shelter, which will attenuate the radiation enough that you don't die. And there actually is an example of how you can do that in the nuclear war survival skills booklet. They walk you through exactly the type of shelter that you need to build. So it is possible, but for that, you're going to need yourself a good trenching tool. Now, we're going to actually be doing a review of this trenching tool that you see here, a dedicated review, because it's such an amazing item. Now, I've reviewed a lot of these survival shovels on the channel before, but this one is absolutely premium, and I'm incredibly impressed with it. We're going to save that for another day. Now, another thing that you're going to want, and this is probably among the most important things, is a means of collecting information. So that could be in the form of a shortwave weather radio, at least an AM radio. That could be in the form of a police scanner, a handheld police scanner. I'll post a link to those in the description below. You also want, of course, a means to communicate with other people in your group. For that, you can use a two-way radio, GMRS, or a Baofeng amateur ham radio bands, UHF. And we've done videos on radios before. This is going to be very important because there is going to be an information blackout. Many people are going to be looking at their phones dumbfounded as to what to do next when they're not receiving any signals and the internet doesn't work and their phones don't work. So how are you going to know exactly what's going on? How are you going to know which places were targeted? How are you going to know the direction of the fallout? You're going to absolutely want a radio that can pick up those signals from emergency services that are telling you where the hot spots are. Okay, so getting a little shortwave radio like this that has solar, a hand crank, so you'll never have to worry about it running out of electricity. You can also put a battery in here. This does take batteries, so I think there's 4 ways to power this. There's lithium, there's standard nickel batteries, and then you have your solar and your crank as well. So you can receive frequencies from very far away with a shortwave radio. So that is absolutely essential. A police scanner, of course, is going to be very useful for knowing what the emergency services situation is in your vicinity. Now, moving into detection. For detection, you're going to want to get yourself a Giegercounter, or dosimeter as it's also called. This is going to allow you to detect whether something that you're interacting with or the environment that you're in is radioactive or not. Now, everything is radioactive to a degree. There's background radiation right now, but that is usually at levels that are understood to be safe for human exposure. Whereas obviously nuclear bomb goes off, the fallout falls out of the atmosphere, and it hits the ground, and then everything becomes highly radioactive to the point where it could potentially cause you to be sick. When you do eventually emerge from your bunker, your basement, or your fortified location, you're going to want to be able to detect how bad it is. So we're going to be interviewing a specialist in Giegercounter soon who's going to be breaking everything down, what we need to know, what we can expect in terms of the radioactivity of the environment post SHTF. Another thing that is absolutely essential is Thyrosafe. This is potassium iodide tablets. These are 65 milligram tablets, and I believe you have 20 in here. It's recommended that adults take about 2 of these per day for 2 to 4 weeks after a nuclear incident. It's safe to say that you would probably need 2 or 3 of these per person if you wanted to be fully prepared and cover all your bases to protect your thyroid from ingesting the radioactive iodine. This, what it does is it puts iodine into your thyroid, thereby blocking the radioactive iodine which might be generated after a nuclear event. So how you protect yourself is up to you, obviously in accordance with the laws of your country. I would say to maximize whatever privileges you are afforded with the firearms protection laws in your country. You can get anything from a self-defense shotgun to a semi-auto rifle to something like this, which is a Henry AR survival rifle. So it folds into this buttstock. It's a plastic buttstock. This is a repeating 22 caliber rifle. Okay, it fires, I believe, has 8-shot clips. And this is really lightweight. They used to give these to guys in the Air Force. So if their planes went down behind enemy lines, they had a means of not only hunting, but providing some minor self-defense. Because of course you can only do so much with a 22, but don't underestimate the well-positioned shot of a 22. It's very, very lethal. Now, if we're talking about hunting and acquiring food, getting some sort of fishing kit or snaring kit would be useful. One thing you're going to want to watch out for, of course, is if you're hunting in a place which was exposed to radiation, then the animals could potentially be contaminated. Apparently, the radiation from a nuclear bomb is going to bind to the calcium in the bones of animals, but the meat should still be good, but you don't want to eat the skin, you don't want to eat the bones. In terms of fish, you don't want to eat the bottom feeder fish. Okay, so you want to be avoiding any sort of bottom feeder species because that's where all the radioactive isotopes fall into the bottom, whatever body of water you're accessing. The good thing is that the lake is going to largely dilute this radiation to the point where it's probably not going to be that much of a big deal, but to err on the side of caution, avoid the bottom feeders, especially for the first little bit, and with respect to hunting once again. Now, if you are hunting, as I've said, it's probably better that you use a bow or a crossbow. Unfortunately, crossbows can be highly unwieldy. They're big, they're cumbersome, they're hard to cock. You have to have cocking aid typically if you want a good crossbow. So as great as they are, if you are bugged out in a cabin in the wilderness and you have a good place to stash your stuff, if you want something more portable, then nothing beats obviously a survival shotgun or a semi-auto rifle. Just remember, martial law, you're talking about attracting attention to yourself right when you pull that trigger. So security is a big thing. On the topic of security, we've reviewed these before. These are called trip alarms. This is a perimeter trip alarm, and what it's used for is securing your space. So if you build a shelter in the woods, even if you have a property and you want to know if somebody is ingressing into that property, you can build yourself a system of tripwires using these trip alarms that use primers. And if somebody hits the tripwire, or an animal even trips the tripwire, it's going to release a very loud bang, probably the equivalent, if not a little louder than a 22 shot. And it's going to notify you that somebody has breached the perimeter. Another force multiplier is this thing right here. Now this is a thermal imager. This is something that is going to allow you to see anything that throws off a heat signature, no matter what the conditions. So unlike night vision, camouflage still actually works against night vision. And you can still hide from night vision relatively easy. You cannot hide from thermal imaging. Some people have tried, There's different things you can do to maybe hide from it temporarily, but by and large, you're gonna leave a heat signature. Now, people would be absolutely amazed. When you look out into a field, when you're driving down the highway, you might not think anything is out there. But I guarantee you, if you take this out and you look at that tree line, you're gonna see all kinds of wildlife. You're gonna see deer, fox, coyotes. The thing is, they blend in with the environment so well. And just like humans who would be using actual camouflage, this is an incredible force multiplier. So while these things are very costly, definitely not within everybody's budget, strongly recommend for the more advanced seasoned preppers who have everything. You're just going to want to make sure that you get one with a very good resolution. Ideally, you're looking at a 640 by 320 resolution, which is going to allow you to punch out for several hundred meters to identify wildlife or two-legged predators, if you will. Now, how will you power that? So of course you can use solar. Power film solar panels. These are made for the US military. These are foldable, flexible, and literally bullet resistant solar panels. So you can shoot this up with a gun and it will still function, albeit at a reduced output. Okay, these things are absolutely amazing and they work in low light conditions, but you're gonna be paying an arm and a leg for it. A lot of this stuff really, you could argue, is not essential. The things that are absolutely essential, of course, are the World War III specific things we're talking about. Now, another solution, if, by some stroke of luck, your phone is still working. I found one of these in a gas station not too long ago. This is like a $5 thing, and it's an emergency phone charger. Okay, it's got 1500 milliamp hours of power. Really, that means you're gonna get about 1200 milliamps into your phone, which for most people's phones nowadays is maybe 40 to 50% of the phone's capacity. It's better than nothing. This is disposable. Okay, so this is a one and done disposable option. Now, in terms of some of the other tools that we have here, I have my Rambo custom made Rambo knife. Now, you're gonna want a beefy survival knife or some kind of crossover Bowie type thing that combines the functions of a hatchet and a personal knife. Now, if you're like me and you have an EDC, well, you're already carrying several knives on you at all times, right? And you have flashlights and you have a variety of other different trinkets, including multi-tools, etc. Of course, we do have our multi-tool right here. The best multi-tool manufacturers, in my personal opinion, are gonna be SOG, Gerber, and of course, can't go wrong with a Leatherman. The other thing is, one of the toughest, most capable saws out there on the market is the Silky Outback. When I met with the owner of Silky Saws back in the day, I said, we need a saw which is geared towards survivalists and preppers. And they obliged, and they made the Silky Outback. I've done many videos on this before. If there's one saw that you would want for the apocalypse, this is probably going to be it. You can even get yourself a couple spare blades for this. The blades come in a variety of different teeth gauges, which is going to allow you to cut different types of material, be it soft or hard. So this is the Hybridlight flashlight. I believe that this is the ideal light for most preppers and survivalists. Now, it's not going to be your slick, machined, anodized aluminum style flashlight that I would carry as an EDC. But this is a great flashlight. It looks like a cheap kind of sort of Chinese flashlight, but you'd be mistaken. This company wanted to make a high quality, very user-friendly flashlight. This is a 1000 lumen flashlight, and it has solar charging right here. So I can even show you how effective the solar charging is. So when I put a light on it, you can see the light come on in that thing. So the solar charging works, it floats, and it is also waterproof, and it also has an output. So this doubles as a power bank to power your other electronics. Hybridlight, it's definitely on my A list. This right here is a Backcountry MacBook. If you don't know your environment that well, then you have maps that are specific, hopefully topographical maps with a lot of detail. This is what they call a Kamanga compass. This is probably one of the most popular styles of compasses for people in the military and preppers alike. We have some Suvrivorcord, which is going to provide you with 1,000 feet of cordage in a 100-foot hank. How do they achieve that? Well, within this paracord, there's around 12 strands of various types of cordage. So you have your wax jute twine, which is 100 feet of waterproof wax tinder. So you can actually use that to start fires. You also have your 10 normal strands. So that's 1,000 feet of mil-spec paracord. All together, it's tensile strength of 1,000 pounds. Individually, it's probably between 50 to 75 pounds per strand. You have your 100 feet of Kevlar, which you can use for a variety of things. Some people use it as a saw. Kevlar is highly heat resistant, so you can actually use Kevlar to saw through wood. We also have a fishing line in there as well. Lots of options, would highly recommend that. Over here we have Israeli medical bandage. Probably one of the most important medical items, especially if you're in a war zone, is your tourniquet. Of course, if we're in North America, there's a good chance that there's not a high intensity conventional war going on. You can get as specialized as you want with your medical kit, but I would say a way to stop the bleeding is the most important. And then having some sort of antibiotic ointment to ensure that that wound doesn't get infected. So polysporin is probably one of the best things that you can put in your bug out bag, because the last thing you want to die from is some cut that gets infected. Now, in terms of shelter is up to you. You can do whatever you want. Here we have a wool blanket. If you want to go ultralight, there's these sleeping bag bivy systems from Titan Survival, or you can just get yourself a emergency survival blanket. You can make yourself a super shelter with just a simple plastic sheeting and a Mylar bag. We also have a shamog. Okay, so shimogs are just good for, there's 1,001 uses for a shamog. This one is quite large, as you can see. And not only do they provide you with a bit of clothing and protection from the elements, they can be used as a face mask to prevent the ingestion of toxic chemicals. You can use it just for a variety of things. We do have a water filter here. We have Lifestraw, and then we also have some water purification tablets. Those are far more convenient. If you're using a Lifestraw or relying on a Lifestraw, you have to have a means of transporting water. One thing I don't have here that I forgot to put up here is a Nalgene single-walled stainless steel container. With that, you can put it right on the fire, you can boil your water, but it's going to allow you a way to transport water. Now, you can use your Lifestraw in conjunction with your container. You could do that, but I find that those little water purification tablets, you drop one in there, you let it sit for an hour, and it's just the easiest way to purify the water. One other thing, of course, that deserves an honorable mention is the Wizzy Mega Cloth. This has our logo on it here, and these things are absolutely amazing. Many of you have probably seen our toilet paper tablet video. Well, when you undo one of these, you get about 20 to 30 toilet paper tablet size sheets, and it's incredibly strong. You can use it as a towel, you can use it for medical purposes, fire starting, you name it. All it is pure cellulose material. Very, very durable, a lot more durable than a paper towel. So you can't go wrong by throwing one of those into your bug out bag.
So in terms of the backpack that I put all this stuff in, this is the Markor 45 backpack. This is far and away one of the most advanced, futuristic backpacks ever made. It just has so many features, more so that I can ever do justice by going into today. But if you want to go check out our very detailed review of this backpack, you can go do that. One of the shortcomings of this pack, however, is that it's only 45 liters of internal space. However, as you can see, with all of the MOLLE attachments on the outside and the external pockets, you could easily get that up to about 70 liters. You may want to do something more gray man. For that, you could use things like dry bags, more inconspicuous bushcraft style backpacks that are those earthy tones, or just a simple run-of-the-mill Walmart JanSport will suffice. But if you want something heavy duty that has a lot of capacity, you can check out this Eberle stock Destroyer backpack. These are made for hunters and military enthusiasts, we'll say. You could also, if you want to go even bigger, get the Eberly stock Terminator pack, okay? This is, I think, 70 to 80 liters of internal volume, as well as a lot of MOLLE attachments on the outside. So really heavy duty backpacks. Really, the sky's the limit. It's totally up to you. We've reviewed a lot of packs on this channel. Of course, one of my personal favorites will always be the Marker 45.
So if you guys want any more information on this, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. I'll do my best to try to answer those. Anything on this table that you can find up CanadianPreparedness.com, use the coupon code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off and free shipping to anywhere in North America. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the video. Canadian Prepper out.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.